Satisfaction guaranteed or your guinea back. This is Barry Lyndon.
Jackie. Hey. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm great. Welcome to Seen and Heard. This is the podcast all about the Sight and Sound greatest films of all time list. I'm Greg.
I'm Jackie.
And we are ping-ponging back and forth on the Sight and Sound list. And we just happened to, this week, land on one of my personal favorites, not to show my hand too early, but a great film. And our third Kubrick.
Yes.
Because we covered 2001 in The Shining.
Yes.
And now we're doing Barry Lyndon. The Shining, it's funny, when we covered The Shining, it was not on the list. We did it as a personal print, yes. And now it's on the new list. Top 100, too.
Is it really?
Yeah. Honestly, rightfully so.
These are the Kubricks on the list. Clockwork Orange, and this is the 2022 list, by the way. Clockwork Orange is 243. Obviously, Space Odyssey, number 6. Barry Lyndon, today's film, 45 on the 2022 list. The Shining is 88. Sorry, this is in such random order. Dr. Strangelove is number 196. That appears to be it.
Cool.
Interesting movies.
Yeah. I don't know if I agree with all of them, but...
like which one?
You know, I'm not a huge... Crucify me for this. I'm not a huge Strangelove fan. Yeah. And we'll get more into it as we talk about this movie. And I'm also not a huge fan of... Clockwork Orange.
Me neither.
I like it though. I think it's great, but I don't know that it's like top.
I only saw it once.
Yeah.
I don't really feel the need to see it again.
It's, I've seen it on and off through the years since I was like 15. I've read the book. I appreciate the movie, but it's never been my favorite Kubrick. But anyway, before we get into all this Kubrick talk and Barry Lyndon talk, what have you been watching, Jackie, that's not Barry Lyndon this last week?
I saw The Room for the first time.
I can't believe that was your first time.
I know. And I felt so embarrassed when I was there because I'm the one with the movie podcast and I was the only one in the group who hadn't seen it. And I felt really embarrassed. Tommy Wiseau. Was he there? He was supposed to be, but he wasn't.
Oh, that sounds like him. He's very flighty.
He's interesting. The movie is fantastic.
Yeah.
And it was fun. It was a true cult experience, cult classic screening. People are chanting and people are throwing things and people are going up to the screen and making movements, and it's just impossible not to enjoy it, really.
Yeah.
It was really, really fun. It was at the Landmark in Westwood.
I have a pair of his underwear.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
How?
Because for the longest time, I don't know if it's still this way, the only way you could buy The Room was from his website. And if you buy it from his website, first of all, he took 6 months to ship it. And then when it finally got here, it had a branded Tommy Wiseau underwear. His name is on the waistband. So I have it. And he also includes a little signed photo of himself.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Do you have it? Is it on Blu-ray? Or
yeah,
DVD?
It's on Blu-ray.
You have it on Blu-ray?
Of course. Yeah.
Do you ever watch it?
Yeah, from time to time.
When? When was the last time you
It's been a few years
to watch it?
It's been a few years. I'm overdue, honestly.
It's so good.
It's great, yeah.
And then I saw Challengers again.
What? Come on.
Yeah,
with all the movies
so
out?
Good. What all the movies out?
I don't know. There's other things.
Not really. Unless I want to see apes.
Yeah, I want to see that.
I don't.
You're talking about Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes for those who are listening in the future.
I'm talking about Empire of the Planet
No,
of the Apes.
It's not Empire.
I'm talking about Galactic Empire of the Planet of the
Now
Apes.
you just don't make sense.
But that's it. What have you been watching?
Before I get into what have I been watching, I forgot to mention this earlier. We have another really sweet Apple Podcast review that came in from someone named Timble Ingle. Great name. It's a great name. And the headline just says Best Film Podcast. They said, one of the best film review podcasts out there. Informative and fun, plus great dynamic between Jackie and Greg. Aw. I loved the shout outs for I Saw the TV Glow and The Wolf House on the most recent episode, and The Love Witch less recently. The Love Witch is one of my favorite films of all time. Oh, wow, interesting. I forget who brought The Love Witch up.
I think I did.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Yeah.
I saw it when it first came out.
I saw it this past October.
Nice. Yeah, it's a fun
Great
one.
Halloween movie.
It is great. Into what I've been watching, I did not a whole lot, so I'll keep it brief, but I did go with some friends from the film club to a Don Hertzfeldt screening they had here for his film It's Such a Beautiful Day and his new short Me. And yeah, I don't know that I liked Me as much as some of his other stuff, but of course revisiting It's Such a Beautiful Day. Have you seen that?
Mm-mm.
Oh my God, you got to see it. It's stick figures and it's an hour long.
That's the one.
And it's
Everyone
incredible.
Talks about it.
It's incredible. So yeah, saw it on the big screen. Good time. And then one I'm really excited about because I had not seen this before. A Japanese film from 2002 called Dark Water, directed by Hideo Nakata, who's the guy that did Ringu, The Ring, the original Ring. A couple years later, he made a movie called Dark Water that I believe also had an American remake. And this was incredible. This was one of the better movies I've seen in a while. Like, this really shook me. It's profound. It's emotional. At its heart, it's a mother-daughter story. It was incredibly unsettling and moody and atmospheric. I loved it. Dark Water. I'm late to the game. I know it came out 22 years ago, but it's incredible. I think you would like it. It's a real class act movie. Yeah, good ghost story.
Is it scary?
I mean, it's certainly unsettling.
Okay.
I thought about it a little as I was creeping through the house at night when I was going to bed at like 2 a.m.
If you're thinking
Jackie,
like that,
we went out for coffee yesterday. I got a tea, okay? The caffeine from the tea that I have at 4, unfortunately, and I had iced tea with dinner, and I didn't even think about it, and I already had my morning cup of coffee. I was up till like 2:30 last night.
No, you were. Are you serious?
I couldn't go to sleep.
What kind of tea did you get?
At Phil's?
Yeah.
A chai?
Yeah.
I know, but usually it doesn't have that effect on me. But I think the coffee plus the chai plus the iced tea later.
Coffee from the morning? No way.
Well, I mean, no, I can have coffee in the morning and I'm fine. But I think it combined with those other things just sent me over the edge. And I was like wired. So because of that, Molly went to bed much earlier than me. And then I was going to bed. It was like 2:30 and she was fast asleep. And I was thinking about the movie. I was like, oh, shit. I think you'd like it. It's good. It's good. No jump scares, really. It's a class act. Great movie. So anyway, Dark Water.
Great.
Should we get into the main attraction?
Yes. And what an attraction it is.
From 1975, this is Stanley Kubrick's Barry Lyndon.
Barry Lyndon was released in 1975. It was written and directed by Stanley Kubrick. Adapted from the novel The Luck of Barry Lyndon by William Makepeace Thackeray. Cinematography by John Alcott. The film's score was adapted from several classical works by Leonard Rosenman. Redmond Barry is a young Irishman in love with his cousin Nora. When an English captain, Quinn, proposes to Nora, Redmond challenges him to a duel. He kills the captain, and at the urging of his cousins, runs away to Dublin. He is robbed on the road and left penniless. Desperate, he joins the army and serves in the 7 Years' War. He encounters a friend of the family from home, Captain Grogan. Grogan informs Redmond that Quinn did not die. Rather, the cousins arranged the duel to make it seem like Redmond was victorious to get him out of town and to allow Quinn to marry Nora in peace, securing the family's financial future. Redmond watches Grogan die in battle and knows he must abandon the army. He steals the uniform and papers of a commanding officer and deserts. He takes refuge in the home of Frau Lieschen, a married peasant woman, and the two have a brief love affair. Eventually, a German captain, Potzdorf, discovers Redmond is an imposter and he is forcibly enlisted in the Prussian army. He serves until the end of the war and even receives a Medal of Bravery for saving Potzdorff's life. After the war, Potzdorff enlists Redmond into the Prussian police. He is assigned to spy on Chevalier de Balibari, an Irishman masquerading as an Austrian diplomat suspected of being a spy to the Austrian Empress. When Redmond meets Chevalier, he immediately realizes he is Irish and breaks down at having found another countryman after so long. The two become partners, escaping Prussia and going on a gambling spree throughout the courts of Europe, cheating aristocrats out of large winnings. He eventually meets Lady Lyndon, the beautiful wife of the ailing and elderly Charles Lyndon. The two have one son, Lord Bullingdon. Charles dies after a verbal spat with Redmond, and Redmond adopts the name Barry Lyndon after marrying Lady Lyndon. They have a son, Brian. Barry is openly unfaithful to Lady Lyndon, and Lord Bullingdon despises his stepfather and his gold-digging ways. In return, Barry beats Lord Bullingdon. When he is grown, Bullingdon announces his departure from his disgraced home, and Barry violently beats him in front of all their high society friends. In contrast, he spoils and dotes on Brian, eventually buying him a horse for his birthday. Brian falls from the horse and dies. After which, Lady Lyndon attempts suicide and Barry drinks heavily as their fortune and estate fall deeper into disarray. Lord Bullingdon returns home and challenges Barry to a duel. After being wounded, his leg is amputated, and Bullingdon offers him an annual stipend to leave England and never return. Barry accepts the terms, and the narrator informs us he tried to resume his gambling career but failed and died lonely and childless. The film stars Ryan O'Neal as Barry Lyndon, Marissa Berenson as Lady Lyndon, and Patrick McGee as the Chevalier du Balibari. Kubrick originally wanted to make a film about the life of Napoleon. He prepared for years, meticulously studying and learning about period-specific details. His plan was to make it following 2001: A Space Odyssey. However, another Napoleon film called Waterloo, which was directed by Sergei Bondarchuk, yeah, he did the War and Peace, that sprawling War and Peace adaptation. It was and it was produced by Dino De Laurentiis, this Waterloo movie. It flopped, and Kubrick lost financing for his Napoleon movie. He discovered Vanity Fair, which is another novel, a more popular novel by William Makepeace Thackeray, and thought about adapting it, but ultimately decided against it when it was announced that there would be a TV adaptation of it. After Clockwork Orange, he set about on making Barry Lyndon. So he was still able to use some of the research that he conducted years before on his Napoleon film, particularly about like period lighting, I suppose. And the film is quite famous for its cinematography, obviously. With cinematographer John Alcott, he tried as much as he could to use historically accurate light sources, mainly candlelight. He even went so far to use extremely fast 50mm lenses, which was a borrowed technology from NASA. They had huge aperture openings. It was the lowest f-stop in film history, although I couldn't find what that f-stop was.
They took it to the grave.
Apparently. He couldn't always use candlelight, however, so when conventional lights were used, Alcott really tried to make it seem like natural light. There was like a special diffuser for light outside a window that made it spread out and look like real sunlight. The look and even specific compositions were inspired by the paintings of Thomas Gainsborough and William Hogarth. The film was shot mostly in Ireland, but also at various castles and estates in England and Germany. Shooting took 8 months, about apparently 300 days exactly.
That's short for a Kubrick movie.
Is it really?
Yeah. Who used to be, at least I think, maybe he's still in the Guinness World Book of Records for longest shoot for Eyes Wide Shut, which is like 2 years or something.
That's crazy. But Kubrick had to leave Ireland when he got multiple threats from the Irish Republican Army, the IRA. This was the time of the Irish Troubles, and yeah, he had to leave Ireland. He got like multiple death threats and bomb threats. He finished up the film in England and Germany. Leon Vitali, who plays Lord Bullingdon, became Kubrick's personal assistant and worked as casting director on his subsequent films. He also supervised the transfers of Kubrick's films to video. And John Alcott, the cinematographer, is actually in the film. The scene at the men's club, which is when Lord Bullingdon comes and challenges Barry Lyndon. John Alcott is one of those sleeping guys, like right next to...
That's cool.
Yeah, it's great. The film was a moderate box office success. It was met with mixed reviews upon release. Many people criticized it for being too unfeeling. But it has grown in popularity since, with audiences and critics alike. It was on Kurosawa's 100 favorite films list. So was Pather Panchali, by the way.
There you go.
Barry Lyndon was nominated for 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. It won Best Art Direction, Cinematography, Costume Design, Best Scoring, Original Song Score and Adaptation, or Score Adaptation. That is the entire title of the award.
Well, yeah, they don't have that now.
Yeah, they don't.
I remember it was a big deal in 2007. Johnny Greenwood was disqualified for an Oscar for There'll Be Blood because one of the compositions from then he had composed for an earlier super small thing. So because just one of those pieces was from an earlier thing, he was not eligible.
So remember when we did The Godfather, though? And
yes,
also
Nino Rota,
because
again,
it was
same thing. Yeah.
But he wasn't. Why didn't they nominate him for this award?
I feel like they choose to crack down when they want. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Makes no sense. But yeah.
Yeah, I think you basically nailed it. I will say the movie stars a roster of Kubrick regulars, from Patrick McGee as the Chevalier, who's so fucking good, Philip Stone, Stephen Burkoff, Leonard Rossiter. There's just, you see a lot of familiar faces, the Kubrick players, basically. But yeah, I think you did it.
Thank you.
But yeah, emphasis on when it came out, because again, it's sandwiched in between. You know, he was innovating with 2001. Obviously, like, Kubrick really came to everyone's attention. Yes, he had done Strangelove, Lolita, Paths of Glory, Spartacus, absolutely. But 2001 was on another level of like, wow, this guy's truly reaching for the stars, no pun intended. And he follows it up with Clockwork Orange, which is almost just as it's more cutting, it's more vicious, it's very sensational, and this movie comes along, so I can kind of see why when it came out people were like, oh, this is the new Kubrick movie. And of course he pivoted, which we talked about in our Shining episode. After this, like, okay, let me do something that people will like, and like looking for a horror story, and he picked The Shining. So this is sandwiched in between Clockwork Orange and The Shining.
So I forget, is there any Kubrick film that is not based off a book?
I think they're all based on books. Yeah.
That's crazy if you think about it. Like,
yeah.
He really is like the king of adaptation.
In so many ways he is, and I know we touched on this on our previous Kubrick episodes, but I think one thing that makes him a master of the adaptation is like, he's not beholden to the source material at all. Like, he almost uses it as a jumping off point.
Yes.
To then do his own thing.
Yes. So
I know that pisses some people off, like Stephen King or whatever, but I think that's what a movie needs to be. It needs to be its own thing. Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah. And yeah, there's that whole thing where you shouldn't adapt like a perfect piece of art.
Yeah.
Like, because you can't.
100% true. And I think a lot of the great film adaptations look at The Godfather, right? Even like Coppola called Mario Puzo's book like a piece of like pulp kind of trash. And it's like, yeah, I think that's 100% right on the money.
Initial thoughts.
Okay, so
I first saw this 10 years ago.
No, well, it was a little bit longer than that. It was like 12 years ago. Before I lived in LA, I was visiting here. Molly and I had just started dating. And the Kubrick exhibit was at LACMA. It's a traveling exhibit. It's still going. I don't know where it is right now, but if you have not seen it and you're a Kubrick fan, don't miss it when it comes around, because it's truly incredible, the things that they have. So I went to that, and I, like every kid, like every boy, I loved Kubrick. He was one of my first film heroes. But I always put off Barry Lyndon because I was like, what is this movie? I'm like, exactly for the reason I just said. Clockwork Orange has violence. Shining has violence. 2001 has the Cosmos. What does Barry Lyndon have? It has a bunch of people in stuffy outfits looking bored. So I was like, pass. So I skipped this for years. When I was rewatching all the other Kubrick movies, I skipped this. So I went to that Kubrick exhibit. It was in 2013. So I guess I first saw this 11 years ago. And in one of the rooms, I think it was the entry to the exhibit, it was like this really cool, like they were playing kind of stills and clips from the different movies, like set to music. And each movie would kind of get its moment. And I remember they went to Barry Lyndon and it showed some shots from Barry Lyndon and the music came in and they had some quotes up there too. I think from like Scorsese, who also loves this, like Kurosawa. And I was like, oh my God, I was overwhelmed by the power of these images. And I was like, okay, like I've been a fool. I need to see this movie right now. So as soon as we got back from our trip, I watched this movie immediately because I was like, I need to right this error right now. And what's there to say? I was completely amazed. This movie slapped me across the face. I've kind of been saying for a while it's my favorite Kubrick. I think because part of that is like the championing of the underdog a little bit. In reality, it's probably tied. It's like a three-way tie. Like this, The Shining, and 2001 are probably all tied. Even Eyes Wide Shut is like very, very, very up there also. But there's something about this film that I think it's kind of a perfect movie for Kubrick because the book is so sprawling and episodic. And I feel like with this film, Kubrick is most at the service of the story that he's telling, where oftentimes he will kind of like with 2001, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, again, the book was written concurrently with the film in the case of 2001, but here, like he's kind of beholden to the material. And there's something about that I kind of love. It's also really hilarious in a way that I don't think Strangelove is. I think Strangelove is funnier in like a slightly more cerebral way or a slightly more absurdist way. And I think Barry Lyndon has kind of a more relatable humor. And I love Ryan O'Neal in this role. And I want to, when we get to you, I want to touch on your thoughts on Ryan O'Neal because obviously at the time, this was a weird choice. He was the it boy. He had done Love Story. He'd done these, like, he had done Paper Moon. He was like, you know, the pretty boy, it boy of the time. And for him to be in a Kubrick movie, there's an interview from Kubrick where he gives there's a quote from him saying like he didn't want Ryan O'Neal, like he was not his choice, but he like learned to like, okay, yeah, you are the right person. But he was kind of forced on him from the studio. So like, okay, you want to go make this movie? Well, you need to take Ryan O'Neal then.
Yeah.
I think Ryan O'Neal does a fantastic job in this movie. He really, really does. And I think there's still people out there who don't think he was a very good actor. We just lost him like last year. He passed away. He is an insanely watchable actor. Honestly, anytime I see him in something, I'm like, great, I'll watch it because he's in it because he's just so good.
He is.
Like the camera loves him. And I think this role, he's doing this Irish accent. There's a lot of stuff going on with his face because it's a Kubrick movie. And he pulls it all off. And I think he's fantastic in the movie. And ultimately, I think too, not to get too on the nose, but I think a story like this too is super topical now for someone like Trump. It's like, how do stupid people get to places of power? Through luck, being in the right place at the right time, being just charismatic enough. So I think it's a modern parable too. Like this, unfortunately, will always kind of be a relevant story because we have so many people in power that should not be in power.
Is Barry Lyndon in power though?
But, okay,
I mean, he in terms of like head of household,
right. Of course, he doesn't.
Scale,
he doesn't become king. He doesn't rule over a land. But he absolutely, to see someone rise the ranks from like a farm boy into this like elite family.
But he's smart. I don't think he's stupid.
He's smart enough. He's not stupid. He knows exactly what he's doing. But at the core, he's not a very good person. I don't think he's evil.
We'll talk about it.
But he's kind of just trashy. And it's evident from the very beginning.
He's hot-headed for sure. He's impulsive. We'll talk about it.
Yeah. But that's wrapping up mine. Well, I want to hear what you thought about it because this is your first time watch for you.
Yeah, without a doubt, one of the most aesthetically beautiful, mind-blowing movies ever. Like, what is there to say really about how good this movie looks? It looks so good. But it has a singularity about it. Like, yeah, there are period pieces and there are films that look like paintings, but this is like unlike anything else. And I realized after I watched it that the period pieces I love all have that special like something about them, that like one distinguishing feature, I feel like. And in Barry Lyndon, it's kind of a bunch of things, but the look for sure. It could also just be like the Kubrick of it all, right? Like this could only ever be made by Kubrick. Like this is like such a perfect Kubrick period piece.
Yeah.
Like, and I just love that about him, that he tackled all these genres, but his voice and his flair and his taste and his standard to perfection just like bleeds through all of them. Like that's a special kind of auteur, like one that can take any genre and just make it like undeniably their own.
Yeah.
And he does it, and I'm so impressed.
I think the only thing he didn't do was like a musical or something, right?
Maybe, yeah. Or like a straight comedy.
Well, Strange Love. Strange Love is
of.
Screwball.
Yeah, it is. It is.
You know, I feel, yeah, outside, he did his noirs, he did his war movies, he did his historical epics, he did his erotic thrillers, did straight on horror, did science fiction. Did war. Yeah, it's all kind of there. It did his, you know, he did Lolita. It's all kind of, just little
like
of everything.
Drama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Goals.
And I just, honestly. And I just like, I love like the irony of this movie, and it really reminded me of like a Coen Brothers in certain aspects.
Yeah,
it really does.
It does.
Like
You're
that
right.
kind of ironic humor, that cruel humor.
And just enough, right?
Yeah.
Not so much that it all becomes a joke.
Yeah, for sure.
You're right. I never thought about that. It does feel Coen-y.
It does. Picaresque.
Yes.
Which I learned that term like 2 months ago, and now I can't stop seeing it and using it.
Yeah, picaresque. It's it is a very...
It's great.
It's one of those
words. It exactly
words.
describes the kinds of movies and stories I like, and I just never knew the word for it.
Yeah.
So what is there to say?
Yeah.
I loved it. Like, how do you not love it?
Well, I think, you know, what you just said, I totally agree. I think, you know, Kubrick's detractors think that his style can be overbearing or cold. And I think of all the films he did, this is one of the movies, I think also 2001, obviously, but where his style most lends itself to the material.
Yes.
Of like the paintings and the Renaissance. Like it's just, it's perfectly composed in this movie. It's like right at home.
Right. What do you want to talk about first? Because I feel like I didn't really organize I organized my thoughts, but I don't know what is.
So what, do you like O'Neill in here? You like Ryan?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's great.
He's so good.
Yeah.
I'm not like fawning over him like you are. Like, I think he's good.
Oh.
He's great. I mean, it's just like, that's not what I think about when I think about the movie.
But he carries the movie.
He does. He's good. Yeah. I just don't think the movie is that type of like performance movie where I'm like, oh my God, Ryan O'Neill's performance in this.
Well, it's not showy, although at times it gets a little big.
So yeah,
but a lot of the time he's kind of just ambling through
like
his story.
Model almost. So like, here's what it is like, and this is something I love about it, is this kind of fairy tale aspect of it, like this whole fairy tale telling. Like in the book, Barry Lyndon narrates his own story, and it's like this unreliable narrator thing, right? Like he narrates a story, but you can't really trust him because he's like a drunk, and he's kind of an Irish stereotype in the book. But what a good move to make for the movie, a like wise, objective British man narrator. I think that's fantastic. And it's like a once upon a time fairy tale thing in my mind. It's really like a story being told through pictures, and we're getting like the details of the story through the narration. And so for that reason, I feel like when I'm talking about like performance, I don't really think about performance, because to me, it really is like a storybook story told through pictures. And there's a level of detachment where like, we don't really feel, I feel like generally they don't really feel like real people, except bits and moments. Like we'll tune in for a little bit and like there'll be a scene that plays out and they are acting and they are playing and they are characters. But then it comes back out and like the narrator's back. And I love that. There's nothing against that, but it does feel very much like he's almost like not a model, but like, you know
like
what I mean?
Like a Bresson model.
No, not at all.
No, it's theatrical.
Yeah, it's more like
I know what you're saying.
Someone's telling us a story and we're seeing the story being played out. We're not really like the actual script itself, and like we're not seeing dialogues play out that often, but we will. Sometimes we tune in, we tune out.
Like it doesn't feel lived in and gritty.
Exactly.
Yeah, and every day. We don't get a sense of his everyday life or anything because the story being told is so grand and theatrical.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the narrator warns us about things before they happen. Like he says, like, as you'll soon see, he leaves at a very young age. And
Brian dies. Yeah.
And the woman who will henceforth play a considerable part in the drama of his life.
Yeah.
Does the woman have any dialogue? Not really. Like, it's
does she have a single line? Melissa Berenson?
Oh, she does.
Does she?
Just you wait for it.
Oh, is that your favorite sound? Well,
and then,
and I want to talk about her too, as when we're on
Let's
performance,
talk about her,
because some could say she has nothing to do in this movie.
A little bit.
She's a Bresson model, right?
Yeah.
Like she's showing up and she's just there to exist.
Yes.
And I think I could see, you know, she's like the one female character of any real significance in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see people being down on this movie because she has like almost nothing to do and she has like no will of her own. Like she's easily manipulated by the men around her and she's very weak. But I think it's kind of perfect for this story where it is about a man just going around manipulating people to get his way and to rise through the ranks. And like, I think she's great in the movie. And I think she also doesn't get enough credit for this role because to look so kind of stone-faced for this whole thing. Effort. Yeah. And there's a certain kind of sadness, a certain kind of like indifference about her.
Right.
That I think is just key. I think she's fantastic.
Definitely. And even I feel like Barry Lyndon is indifferent sometimes and his face too. That's what I mean when I say like it is this kind of like theatrical telling, storybook telling. But then there's moments where like it breaks and that's where it's so cool. Like when he beats Lord Bullingdon in front of everyone, like it almost feels like we're not supposed to be seeing that. Like we've seen this perfection. Yeah. And then it's like shaky camera and everyone's screaming and it's like violence. There's that moment. And then there's the moment where Lady Lyndon not accidentally, but poisons herself, right? Yes. And she's screaming and wailing. And again, I think it's handheld too. So there are these moments where it breaks, right? And they do become real. Yeah. I mean, there's more. There's also like humor and things like that. But that's what I mean when I say that.
These moments of erratic kind of chaos.
Yes. Where you feel like you're not even supposed to be seeing it. And not even any of the battle stuff. Like the battle, maybe the one where Pottsdorf gets like...
I feel like that's locked down.
That's locked down, especially like super locked down is the first battle where they're just walking and they're not reacting and people are dying and they're not shooting. And I'm like, why aren't they shooting? They're literally just walking into fire and his friend gets shot and dies.
That's like the protocol. I think have to march up to the line.
And so it's interesting.
Well, no, you brought up a good point and I love that. And Kubrick does get flack for like his smooth camera shot, like everything being locked down and stuff. But you're right. Those two moments you mentioned with the poison and with the fighting. And then even when he fights the guy when he's in the service, Pat Roach, like that's also handheld.
Also, yeah.
And like Kubrick does... I think just those instances of like choosing when to go handheld is like so powerful. Yeah. But also, do you know the guy, Pat Roach, who he fights in that scene? He's a famous stuntman. He's two Indiana Jones villains. Wow. In the first movie, do you remember he fights that big bald Nazi who gets chopped up in the propellers? Yeah. That's him. And then he's in Temple of Doom in brown face with a turban on. Wow. And he's like the main thuggy bad guy in that movie. So he's like, and he went on to just like, he's one of the all-time great kind of like stunt people. I think he also just died recently, or maybe he died like 20 years ago. I'm not sure. But yeah, Pat Roach, that's him. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like talking about kind of this perfectionism, Kubrick's general perfectionism and this like period accurate lighting. And doing that, like that's such a Kubrick thing to do. Like I want to do period accurate lighting. Yeah. Like, and that is only a pedantic fussy weirdo would do. And I love it.
It's true.
And thank God he did, because the movie is just majesty. Like this movie is just, it's so... I don't know.
I think Kubrick stuff, like I would never work the way that Kubrick works when he does like 100 takes or something. And clearly he
takes us a bit much.
Clearly he like broke some actors in his career. But I think for most of his films, like the blood, sweat and tears are worth the final product, because this movie would not work. It wouldn't be the same movie if it didn't have that precision to it.
And like, let's look at these zoom outs.
Yes.
So I see like it's like you think you know what's going on, and then he's like, look at that, look at the whole image, and you're like,
Right.
oh my God.
Yeah.
And he does that like continuously.
Like you're stepping back from a painting or something.
Exactly. And it's going to be, when we get to the final image, it's going to be more beautiful. It's going to be more painterly than you could have imagined.
Yeah.
And he keeps doing it. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, 100%. And also, good thing to remember is the zoom at this point is still pretty new.
Yeah.
It's like maybe 10 years old, maybe 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite ones?
God. I don't know. Its whole movie is full of glorious slow zooms. It's
I love the one where he's chopping wood.
Oh, yes.
Very early on, and it comes all the way out, and he's just on this perfect farm in Ireland, and I'm like, oh my God.
That one happens right after he talks to his cousin Nora. Like, why were you with the captain?
Yes. And
like,
then right after that is Nora and Quinn. Their hands are being held, and it's just a close-up of like hands.
Yeah.
And then you zoom out, and you're on this beautiful hill in England.
It's
or
incredible.
in Ireland. And oh my God. And then even the first battle, it starts on him, and then it zooms out, and it's like all these guys marching, and it's so impressive. When Brian is born, the baby, do you remember? It's like it starts on the baby, and then it zooms out to this like perfect family image.
It's this perfect tableau.
Baroque bedroom.
Like you could print that, frame it,
oh my God,
paint over it, and boom, that's a painting.
So many of those. And then there's the painting shots, right? Like you said, like the very famous one that people post all the time is the one where he's at the men's club and he's asleep in the chair.
Yeah,
people post that all the time.
People fucking love that because it's modeled after a very specific painting.
Yeah, one of these William Hogarth ones, which is called so he did a series of paintings. It's really interesting, and there's like 6 of them, and it's called Marriage à la Mode. That's the name of the series, and the one that's inspired by that one is, I think, the second one in the series, and the whole series is criticizing and kind of poking fun at like 18th century society marriages in which like it's just for like money, and it's just like advantageous marriages, but like how they fall apart. Maybe not just money, but just the way that like people that don't even like each other getting married.
Yes,
essentially.
exactly.
And that's the one it's modeled after. It's like the couple's at home and they're just kind of like sitting around super bored, and the house is like falling apart around them.
Yeah.
They're great pictures. You should look them up. They're really cool. Yeah. And then, I mean, there's like just those long dolly shots of, Barry and that German lady like in an embrace. It starts as a tableau. That one starts as a tableau, right? And then it moves and he like leaves on his horse.
When he's saying goodbye, yeah.
And then the first time go
I
ahead.
love that they include that scene too.
It's so good.
All the detours this movie takes,
oh my God,
replicates the joy of reading a sprawling novel.
Exactly.
You know, it's like this happens and this happens. Like, is that pertinent to the story? Not necessarily.
But that's the story.
But it's another stop on his journey. And it's like,
and the narration is so on fire in that scene. It's like a woman who loves a man in uniform must be prepared to, I don't know,
change lovers frequently or something. Yeah.
And he says something else about her heart. Like, it's like these towns, it's been conquered and it's been this and that. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in heaven. That scene, that shot and that scene, it's only 2 shots actually. I'm in heaven.
Yeah.
There's that. And then there's like the actual infrastructure and the production value of the movie, of these castles and the boat when they're on their date. And the carriage that he gets Brian, and it's just like this stuff that is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, it's something else.
It really is. And I think too, I mean, this movie, unfortunately, the main talking point about this movie that I ever hear from anybody is the lenses developed for the movie, for the low light, the candle scenes, and the look of the movie based on the paintings. And of course, that stuff is fantastic.
Sorry, that was the first thing I talked about.
No. And this is your first time watch. But I'm just like, I would love to move the general, not this episode, but the general discussion on Barry Lyndon past because like,
let's do it.
That's all that people talk about.
Because how can you not?
And I'm like,
it's so
I know, and that's great, and it
ethereal.
deserves a moment. But like 2001, people discuss the look, they discuss the philosophy, they discuss the ambiguity. There's so many things. The Shining, there was a whole documentary made on all these conspiracy theories. But Barry Lyndon, it's just like, oh yeah, them lenses. And you're like, yes, them lenses, but also the film.
Okay, Greg, you don't need to shout. We'll move on.
No. I wasn't. It was important to bring all that up. But I'm just
done
like,
now.
No.
With the cinematography and the production value.
No, it's not even you. I'm saying the general discussion on this movie annoys me. That's all. And not you. No, like what's out there. The general.
Got it.
That's all I was saying.
Understood.
I wasn't telling you to move
further.
on. I was not.
Let's talk about the wisdom of this movie then. Let's talk about some of these great fucking narrations.
Yes.
Let's
and the guy's perfect too. I forget what his name is, but he does a voice in
right now,
Watership Down.
Michael Hordern.
Perfect.
He's perfection.
Yeah. Because there's a little wise.
Oh, they're so.
Alec-ness,
oh my god, so wise, Alec-y. I love in the beginning when he goes. It's when he's chopping wood. Barry had resolved to never see Nora again. But such resolutions, though they may be steadfastly held for a whole week, are abandoned in a few moments of black despair. It's so good.
It's great. Yeah. I wonder if that's taken directly from the... Oh, no, it wouldn't be because it's not told. Barry Redmond narrates his own
But I'm sure they
story.
take it and then they just change maybe like the tense.
Maybe.
I love when he's riding away, when he's just like, quote, killed Quinn. And the narrator goes, no lad who has liberty for the first time and 20 guineas in his pocket is very sad. And Barry rode towards Dublin, thinking not so much of the kind mother left alone and of the home behind him, but of tomorrow and all the wonders it would bring.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Gets you excited for the story ahead.
Exactly. And it is adventurous. This movie is so adventurous. And I love that. Like, I love when he gets robbed, like that, all of those stops along the way.
Right.
Like getting robbed, joining the army, running away from the army, getting caught, going back.
It's funny you say that because one of the criticisms lobbed against this movie is that it's too glacial and boring and slow. And and I agree with you. I think it is adventurous. The first part at
least is super adventurous.
Yeah, I agree.
I really, really love it. And
it's your classic rise and fall story where the person is literally climbing out of a hole with their bare hands, and then once they get to the top, they just kind of like, in the same way, There'll Be Blood, honestly, and this are very similar movies.
Totally.
He's kind of misanthropic, although I don't know how much Redmond is misanthropic. He's just kind of...
So, I think he's just kind of detached. So, like, I think there's one piece of narration actually that's like super vital, which is when he first sees Mrs. Lyndon and the narrator goes, 5 years in the army and some considerable experience of the world had by now dispelled any of those romantic notions regarding love with which Barry commenced life.
Right.
That's
right.
It.
Yeah.
That's his character.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
It really comes down to Barry, this kind of cynical, I don't know about misanthropic, but definitely like cynical character and ultimately movie, I think.
And trashy. He's like kind of trashy.
What do you mean by trashy?
It's not even for the cousin thing, because all, cousins were hooking up back then.
His like infidelity to his wife.
The infidelity to his wife, and then just like his handling, like when he throws the glass in Captain Quinn's face. Like, not even just the drink. He throws the glass.
I love that.
There's a swagger about it, but like...
He's such a lovesick, hot-headed Irish boy.
I don't even think he's lovesick for his cousin. I think he's more just like, she's mine. And I feel like he's... Like, the first scene they're in together, when she puts the scarf in her blouse, and she's like, find the scarf. He's like very indifferent. He's like, where is it? Just tell me.
No, he's not. He's shy. I think that was him trying to play like shy youngster. I found the ribbon.
Well, as you said, he's playing a part.
I met Ryan O'Neal.
Oh. Well, that's not as interesting.
I mean, I don't know, but yeah, like, okay, he starts out with a duel for love, right? That's how his journey starts. And it ends...
I love that guy too. Captain Quinn.
Oh, I like Captain Quinn.
And again,
too.
just funny enough. Like the way that he carries himself and when he's dancing. And
I love Captain Quinn. And it ends with a duel, which is happening because of how cruel and unfeeling he's become. Like, that's how I see the arc. Is like in the beginning, it's like love. And then at the end, it's like, you're a dick.
wealth.
And I think Kubrick is such a pacifist at heart. Like, I think he's really anti-war.
Yeah.
Like, and just like Dr. Strangelove or Full Metal Jacket, I think this movie is an anti-war movie and what it does
the best
to people.
example, Paths of Glory.
Yeah, Paths. Oh my God,
Yeah.
I forgot Paths. Jeez,
Maybe
I apologize.
one
for
of the
that.
most important
That's
anti-war films.
Oh yeah, probably.
With like Don't Come and See.
Yes.
And The Ascent.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just the enslavement of the army. And actually, there's a really good bit of narration I forgot about. It goes, gentlemen may talk of the age of chivalry, but remember the plowmen, poachers, and pickpockets whom they lead. It is with these sad instruments that your great warriors and kings have been doing their murderous work in the world. That's sick.
Great. Yeah, that's great.
But really, it is an anti-war movie, and it's about just what it did to him. I mean, other things did things to him too to make him cynical, but I think really the war was a big one, and losing that friend.
I love too the way the narrator talks about the war. He's like, it would take a great philosophical, undertaking to describe the European
what
wars.
This war was.
Yeah, just like this is meaningless.
I love it.
Like
I love
people
it.
are fighting.
Yeah. The theft of his mother's life savings too probably really affected him.
And stolen in the most polite way imaginable.
I love it. I love that.
It's a father-son duo.
Yeah, people accuse me of like writing too polite, even bad guys writing them too polite. But like, I love it.
I love it too. They should be relatable.
I've gotten a lot of slack about that, but after watching this movie, I'm like, oh fuck, no.
No, it's great.
Yeah.
I love too the way the narrator dips, like he's talking about Lyndon Senior's death, and then his voice just trails out. I think when going into the intermission, but it's like this kind of just the narration just fades out as he's talking.
It does.
Yeah,
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I clocked it. It's a nice little moment.
So yeah, I mean, let's talk about, is he a sympathetic character? Is he too unfeeling? Is he sympathetic? Let's talk deep, Greg. Let's get deep. Let's not talk about images anymore.
Here we go. Let's get in. Yeah, absolutely sympathetic for sure.
Yeah.
Because we've seen him from his beginnings, as a teenager.
But you're saying
basically.
he wasn't in love and he wasn't lovesick.
But there's something still like likable about him. I think because he's like enough on the right side, like even if his motivation for rescuing Pottsdorf, even if his motivation, I mean, I think he genuinely rescued him because
he wanted to rescue him.
Yeah,
like I don't see any motivation there.
No, and that's the thing. That's why he's so interesting, because he's not. We just talked about There Will Be Blood. He's not a Daniel Plainview who's just kind of a horrible person.
He's horrible.
Whereas Redmond Barry is like, yeah, he's like well intentioned, just smart enough, but also just like trashy.
Maybe.
I say
trashy. Do you mean low class? Like, what do you mean?
Well, literally low class, but then also like him beating Bullingdon at the recital.
Well, let's talk about that.
Trashy AF.
Yeah. So like we see him, because people always say, oh, unfeeling, so detached, so unfeeling. He breaks down when he meets Chevalier. That's like a very thing moment. He actually genuinely is so happy to meet someone from Ireland, and like, that's great. He, when his friend dies, kisses him like on the lips, sobs. He loves Brian a lot. Even the narrator tells us he like can't handle his death, becomes an alcoholic. Yeah, Daniel Plainview doesn't do any of that
Hates
stuff.
his son, abandons him.
Yeah. I mean, I think Daniel Plainview low-key loves his son, but that's a whole other story. He just has issues.
Right.
But he is horrible to Bullingdon. This is true. And he cheats on his wife a lot. And that's what I get what you mean when you say trashy. I think with the Bullingdon thing though, and with the whole story, like it's about a person living in a time of like severe social inequality, in which it was virtually impossible to make a name for yourself if you weren't born into wealth and a title. That's kind of the movie, and that's kind of his journey. And he lost his first and probably only love because of it. It's definitely a theme, and so like plot points and details about it are intentional. And so with the Bullingdon thing, he likes beating up a lord. Like a part of him likes it. And he even says it to him. He's like, I didn't think I'd ever be beating up a lord.
Yeah, the Spanx.
Yes. So like there's this bitterness in him because of it. It's more, but obviously it's not right. And Lord Bullingdon has every right. Like I am on Lord Bullingdon's side. Let's be fair.
I am. He's a little bit of a bitch, but yes.
No, I don't think he's honestly. I think he's actually really brave, and I'm proud of him.
You know what? I am too.
And I'm not forgiving Barry Lyndon, but I think the film does a good job of being ultimately kind of a villain origin story.
Yeah. Well, certainly there are some villainous moments.
Right.
But I would say by the end of the movie, I mean, the person he has the most beef with is Bullingdon. And it's mainly because Bullingdon doesn't kiss his ring when he enters the family.
He doesn't.
Oh,
well,
literally
he has a
cheek.
problem
Yeah,
with
you're right.
Bullingdon. Yeah, not like, because Bullingdon sees through him as like, you're social climbing, which is true. He is.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
Bullingdon loves his mom. It's actually really sweet when Bullingdon grabs Lady Lyndon's hand when they see him like making out with the nanny.
Oh, yeah.
And he grabs his mom's hand. Like, it's really touching.
Yeah. So I saw this at the Egyptian Theater in like, I don't know, 2018 or something. And Leon Vitali was there and he introed the movie. And then he sat and watched it with us. And he sat like 2 rows in front of me, like directly in front of me. So he was like 2 arms lengths away from me. So I just got to watch the back of Leon Vitali's head as the movie played. And
That's so
especially
cool.
those scenes, all the Bullingdon scenes. I was
And they're
like,
so funny. And he's so funny.
yeah, he's so good. And I'm kind of sad. Like, obviously there was that great documentary made a few years ago called Film Worker about him and just his dedication to Kubrick and being Kubrick's right-hand man after this movie. But the fact that we were almost kind of robbed of what he would do, what
As
he
an
could have been
actor.
as an actor. Yeah.
That's the thing. It's kind of strange that he became his personal assistant after being his actor.
Yeah.
It's kind of strange.
Yeah. He talks about it too, just kind of being a full-time job.
gotta see that.
Because there'd be big gaps, like 1980 to 1987, was open, and then 87 to 99 was open, but he was like still working,
Reading, I'm sure.
reading and running
Books.
errands and supervising prints, and like, yeah, it was like full-time thing
For
for
sure.
the rest of his life, basically. And then even until he died recently, he was still overseeing like all the Kubrick stuff.
Yeah.
So there's something really sweet. He's not related to Kubrick. He's not his son. He's not his nephew. It's just some guy he cast in a movie that was like, I will now dedicate the rest of my life to like serving you.
That is crazy.
Because you're such a genius and anything I can do to help, it's
love
just
that.
like, not to make him seem meek or anything, but there's something really admirable about it.
Yeah, definitely.
And even I know on The Shining, I forget who said it, but one of the actors was like, honestly, like Leon Vitali was like to thank for some of the performances. Because it's
Wow.
like, especially with Danny, the kid in The Shining, like Leon Vitali was like the main one working with him, like over Kubrick of
Yeah.
like getting a performance
Kubrick is
out of him.
notorious for being like not an actor's director, right?
Right. Yeah.
That's interesting.
So Leon Vitali kind of balanced that out a little bit and was like the friendly, warm
Yeah.
actor guy.
Yeah. But going back to our very deep discussion
Yeah.
that you wanted to have
We're having
about
it.
the philosophy.
Yes.
So like going back to this, like, is he a villain? Is it a villain origin story?
It's not.
I think he is Bullingdon's villain, and we just watched the villain origin story for the second part of the movie.
Right. If it's from Bullingdon's point of view, then he's a villain. But I think all of us in our own ways are a villain in someone's life story.
Oh, 100%.
So
Well,
it's
I don't
like-
think I am.
You would be surprised. I don't know. I'm
Oh,
sure you
no.
are. And at least
Who
one
are
person
you?
out there.
Who's what?
Oh, I for sure am in a couple people's lives.
But they don't know because you do it behind their back.
No, not my last downstairs neighbor. I'm definitely probably high on his kill list of people.
You mean the one that was slashing tires?
No, that's a different one. The one that was just really loud that I like yelled at and said the most demeaning things to any adult I've ever said in my life to someone that's like twice my age.
Well,
But he deserved it.
that's
So-
what they all say.
But I'm a villain in his story, even though he's a villain in mine. But the point is, you're
you
a
didn't
villain.
physically assault anyone though.
That's true. I didn't.
But the interesting thing is that he doesn't shoot Lord Bullingdon in the end, right? He
Yeah.
makes the most right choice he's ever made at the very end of his story, and it still gets him with an amputated leg.
Let's talk about the final duel.
So before I do,
Okay.
I want to ask you what you think. Is he tired? Does he... I mean, this is part of talking
Like,
about the
why
final
doesn't
duel.
he shoot Bullingdon?
Yeah. Does he...
Feels bad for him.
Does he see the error of his ways
I don't think he sees the error of his ways.
and want
Well,
forgiveness?
I don't think he wants forgiveness. I think he's more just like exhausted from years of just like fighting this
Climbing.
kid. No, fighting this kid who hates him. And he never really put much effort into gaining Bullingdon's favor or being like, hey, try to swing things back the other way. He doesn't try. And the fact that Bullingdon hates him so much just fires him up even more. So it's years of just like Bullingdon being an annoyance. When he brings Brian into the recital with those clip-clop shoes on. And it's like,
I love that.
It's just, it's years of that. And I think, but in that moment when Bullingdon's gun misfires and he's like about to piss himself. Oh, he throws up
so good. I love that last duel.
It's like, oh my God.
It's so good. And there's such assholes. They're like, well, that counted. And he's like,
yeah, it fucking counted. It fucking counts. I'm on their side. It counted.
It was so funny.
Guess what? They're Bullingdon's guns. They're his guns.
That
scene.
I died. But do you think that Barry Lyndon in that moment, I think in that moment, he truly I feel like he didn't want to hurt, he just lost his son.
Yeah.
And I feel like he did not want to hurt his wife's only remaining son.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe I'm reading too much into
He's not a monster.
He's not.
He doesn't want Bullingdon to die. He only duels him because Bullingdon forces him to.
Yeah. He's also just drunk and tired and depressed.
Honestly, I don't, at that point, I don't know that he wants to even live anymore because it's like the only person that mattered to him, his son, died. He doesn't care about his wife. He didn't really care about her from the beginning.
Yeah.
Like maybe he cares for her over time. He cares for her as like he doesn't hate her. But he's like,
could you?
He's like indifferent.
Look at her.
He's indifferent. She just she's this ethereal presence throughout the movie.
She is, yeah.
But no, the way that last duel is drawn out and you feel every second of it, but
it's
in the best way.
Good. Exactly. I was leaning forward.
So much tension.
And they take the time to explain all the rules. Meticulously.
And we've seen duels prior in the movie too, so we know how they're supposed to work.
Third one.
Although this one is especially crazy because literally the flipping of the coin and whoever just gets to shoot at the other person. They didn't do that
at the other ones.
No,
so I wonder why it's like
time.
that in this one.
That is one of the best moments of the movie.
I know.
And the realization that was his shot.
And then when he does shoot him in the leg, when he says I'm not satisfied.
Yeah.
I really thought he was going to say I'm satisfied and loved it.
I think too Redmond in that scene is I deserve he deserves to shoot me once.
I think so too.
Maybe too that's his way of wrapping up the whole thing of listen, we'll be even. If you take a shot at me, then maybe you'll leave me the fuck alone.
Yeah. Not to bring up the visual look of the movie again.
Listen, I wasn't talking about you.
I'm just saying, I think it's related to this. I think it's related to I think it's life was visually stunning to look at with rolling green fields without electrical wires and castles and mansions
with
and
candles,
Baroque architecture. But not only people were still people, but people were worse. They were crueler, and the world was crueler, and there was war where people were kidnapped into the army, and arguments can only end in bloodshed and someone dying. And I think it all plays with, the look and the theme and everything is playing together to show us that.
Yeah.
It wasn't as romantic as Jane Austen made us think it was.
No, it's not. That's one thing you don't love. Yeah, no, you're right.
Jane.
And I think one thing you don't get in this movie is kind of the filth. But I guess also he's never.
You don't get physical filth, but you get existential filth.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're right. But just the reason that everyone's wearing so much makeup back then is because everyone had bad skin and warts and boils and it's everybody smelled bad.
They also just all wanted to look super pale.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say the actor who plays, God, what's his name? He's the tutor.
Oh, Melvin? So it's so funny because he keeps popping up for me. I watched 2 Ken Russell movies and he was in both of them.
Wait, which ones?
He's in The Devils and he's in The Boyfriend.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He's also from Phantom of the Opera.
Oh, yeah. Murray Melvin.
And I said Melville.
The director.
I thought I saw him pop up in Amadeus. You know how I watched Amadeus a few weeks ago?
Yeah.
I could have sworn he was in that too. But I think I'm just in my mind mixing Phantom of the Opera and Amadeus.
He's
I
perfect.
even looked it up. But I don't think he was in Amadeus.
He has such a great look.
He's so good.
So good.
let's talk about the funny moments
Okay,
a little more.
Let's talk about one that maybe doesn't sit 100% right with me. It's the scene where Redmond steals the horse from the two gay men that are bathing.
Oh my god!
Like that scene. That's like the only one where I'm like,
and the clothes.
Also, I feel like Kubrick makes those guys into a caricature.
Little stereotypy.
Yeah, like, oh my god, they're like splashing each other with the water, and it's like,
I hate when you leave.
Yeah, I'm like, this is a little
bit.
Again, I know it's like a 50-year-old movie at this point, but it felt a little,
definitely, definitely
insensitive.
Oh, definitely. But the way it cuts off right at like, oh, Jonathan, isn't it like something like that?
Yeah, I think so.
But I love that he doesn't blackmail them. What I thought he was going to do is blackmail them into saying like, hey, you guys need to give me like an honorable discharge or I'm going to tell everyone you're gay.
Yeah, yeah.
But he doesn't. He just steals their stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with him stealing their stuff because like they can just say a thief stole our stuff.
No, it's the depiction of them.
It's the depiction of them. But it's from a distance, but still. The way they're talking.
But their dialogue is ridiculous.
Little bit.
And then I was thinking about it. I'm like, does Kubrick have any sort of like queer characters in any of his films? And I couldn't really think of any. Again,
those are the two.
But also, you can't hold. Like, I'm very much adamant that stuff from the past cannot be held to the present standards of that kind of. Like, it's like this movie's 50 years old. It's based on a book from the 1800s.
Yeah.
It's like we can't hold it to that. But
that happens in the book.
I feel like that being the only depiction, it just feels a little egregious.
It's hurtful.
Like, yeah, they're very stupid too.
Yeah.
And
how did they not see him walking away with their horse?
With their horse, yeah.
And clothes.
I know.
I love the interlude with the German peasant woman.
Yeah.
I love the whole Pottsdorf thing. Like when he runs into Pottsdorf and you're like, again, on the edge of your seat there, you're like, is he going to find him out? Is he going to do it?
You know what? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say when he finally does. And then Redmond's like, I wish to volunteer. Like before they can force him to be in the army.
That scene with Pottsdorf where they're at dinner felt like something out of Inglourious Bastards.
Exactly.
With Christoph Waltz.
Exactly. It reminds me of like, that kind of Tarantino, Cohen, characters fucking up, like the main character fucking up and knowing they're in trouble but trying to like not be. And
also the villain in quotes in that scene being very pleasant and like, oh yes, and welcoming until he's not. And he's like, you're fake, like you deserted.
But I was laughing so hard when he said, I wish to volunteer.
Yeah. I love that stuff. I love the stuff with the Chevalier.
I love the Chevalier stuff. I love when they sneak out. Yeah, he's wearing the makeup. He's pretending he's him.
Yeah.
So good because it's from a distance. And the narrator even says like that morning Chevalier woke up, did his regular routine. And you think it's him. It's only when we get into the close-up where we realize that it's Redmond.
They pull a fast one on us.
Exactly. It's so good.
That's great. I love too when he first meets Melissa Berenson and she comes to the table of the Chevalier and they're playing whatever game they're playing. They're gambling. And Redmond just locks eyes with her and like he barely looks away and she kind of looks at him and then she looks down and she looks back at him and it's just like capturing her in this tractor beam. Yeah. And then the way that she excuses herself from the table, goes out to that veranda, he follows her and just wordlessly walks up to her, brings her in and kisses her. And it's like from that moment he has her. Yeah. It's like a piece of property.
Even the narrator says she was in love with him 9 hours later.
Yeah. Important to note too that the production design was by the legendary Ken Adam.
What a legend.
Such a legend. Obviously Dr. Strangelove. He's famous for the Bond movies, doing a lot of cool stuff on a very small budget. He's just a legend. Yeah. One of the greats. But yeah, never in this movie. It's so wild that it's from 1975. In my mind, 1975 is still like pretty new. Because it was just like 13 years before I was born. But like, because of Kubrick's, the way he shoots stuff and lights stuff and the soundtrack all being, in this case, pre-recorded classical music, there's nothing about the film that feels dated or anything. I think the only thing that someone could point to as being like, oh, I can tell this is older is by the zooms. Just because today we don't really use them unless they're like this whip zooms. It's like quick zooms, whatever they call them. Yeah. Like from The Office and shit. Which I feel like even now that's kind of out of fashion. But I think that's the only aesthetic thing in this movie that would tip you off that it's like 50 years old.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, next year is the movie's 50th anniversary.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great movie.
It is a great movie. Do you want to do sight and sound?
Yeah.
What's your favorite sight?
I mean, is it even possible?
You got to pick one.
You laughed when you said one. I love the interior scenes a lot. As much as I love the countryside, which I do, I love the interiors.
Yeah.
I love the last shot when they're signing papers, and that one looks very much like a painting. But I also love the scene where he's standing over her in the bath. Like anything with outdoor lighting coming in, I was just like, what is this?
Yeah.
So that scene with the bathtub. But my favorite is actually a wide shot from Brian's birthday where it's from behind. Mm-hmm. Is that your favorite?
Well, wait, keep going.
It's just the table, but it's like the sun coming in from the window and they're having dinner, and it's like we're against Redmond's back, but it's like this wide, beautiful shot of this room, and I was just like, this is a painting. Like, this is it.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I think that's my favorite. I mean, I love them all. Don't get me wrong.
Well, it's funny you should mention Brian's birthday because mine is also from Brian's birthday. And it's the shot of Redmond leading the pony carriage that Brian is on. I love that. Because there's something about that image. And again, this movie, you could pick any scene from this movie and be like, that's my favorite sight. It's incredible. It's absolutely one of the most visually ravishing films I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But there's something about that pony image that truly exemplifies the sort of opulence and ridiculousness that his life has become.
Yeah.
And also how much joy he's getting in like leading that for Brian, like leading the ponies.
He loves him.
Yeah, he loves him. And I love that relationship in the movie.
Aren't they sheep?
Yes, they're sheep. Oh, yeah, they're sheep. Exactly. Yeah. They're not ponies. They're sheep.
Which makes it sillier.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. And it's so good. I love that image. And
it's so sad when he died. That's a great image. When he dies and the coffin is in that carriage.
Yes.
Zooms out.
Yes.
That's really sad.
I know. Also, come on, kid. Be better.
Who let him on the horse? That's my question.
The people from the farm. Or maybe he just like leapt on a horse. Like
it had a saddle.
I don't know.
When I knew that was going to happen, I was like, fuck.
This fucking kid. Also, how many kids from movies died by falling off a horse?
The wind.
Yeah, Gone with the Wind.
That's the big one that pops out to me.
Yeah.
What else?
There's definitely something else.
It's always in songs. It's always in like, what's Marnie?
The Hitchcock movie?
I haven't seen.
Oh, okay. Anyway.
Probably. That's like the classic way for kids to die. There's also a bunch of like country songs about it and folk songs about it.
Of course.
Like, her pony stumbled and,
What is your favorite sound?
Okay, so you mentioned that Lady Lyndon doesn't have anything to say, but this exchange is like my favorite sound. And here it is.
Lord Bullingdon, you have insulted your father.
Madam, you have insulted my father.
Dearest, will you excuse Lord Bullingdon and me for a few minutes? We have something to discuss in private. Gentlemen.
It's just the fact that they call him Lord Bullingdon, like this little boy, like, Lord Bullingdon, you have insulted your father.
He is, yeah, exactly.
It's so funny to me. I was cracking up in that scene.
I think too, it's hilarious. He goes to spank him after this, and he's a kid. But then later, when he's like, when he's Leon Vitali, he's spanking him as an adult, and there's something so funny about that image.
It is funny, and I love how it hard cuts. It's like, I told you never to touch this child, and then he's beating him again.
Yeah.
It's really
so
funny.
Good. Oh my God. Well, it's funny. Mine also is a line.
Yeah.
And I love the music in this movie. And again, the way that Kubrick latches onto these couple musical pieces and plays them throughout so they become these running themes.
Yeah.
Of course, I love, the use, especially in the duel scenes. Like the music is incredible. But I'm going to go with the line when they're tucking Brian into bed and Redmond says this to him.
Keep the candles lit.
Oh, now, Brian, big boys don't sleep with the candles lit.
But I'm afraid of the dark.
But, my darling, there's nothing to be afraid of.
But I like it with the candles lit.
It's all right. You can sleep with the candles lit.
Thank you, Papa.
Good night.
It's so good.
It's just like,
it's so good.
I don't know. It's perfectly placed.
Yeah.
Again, like the humor in this movie is punctuated at very specific moments. And it's just like, that really made me laugh.
It is
great.
It's very good.
Yeah.
I have a question about his hair. I've never seen these like British ponytails that long.
Right.
It's like, remember in Game of Thrones, the Dothraki don't cut their hair unless they lose a battle?
I think so.
Did you ever watch it? Oh, you didn't watch it.
I watched like the first 4 seasons.
That's a lot.
Yeah. But it was when it was airing, so I don't remember.
Have you ever seen in any other period piece like ponytails that long?
Maybe not.
It's long.
Yeah, it's long for sure.
Also, that song, the
oh yeah,
that's also in Pride and Prejudice.
Oh
when,
yeah,
like the soldiers are marching in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's famous.
So it's like, I don't know. I felt like finally watching this movie, I was like, okay, my period piece journey is complete.
Complete.
Full circle.
I guess. Don't you want to feel like nothing's ever complete? That you'll always have stuff from your favorite genres.
But I feel like
and stuff
majors.
Too?
I'm glad I've.
But also, period piece is so broad a term.
I mean, like British
costume drama, quote unquote, which covers like 1600s, 1700s, 1800s.
Yeah, yeah.
Into the early 20th century.
Yeah, even that's period still, but not in my mind period. Just like
Downton was early 20th century.
But that doesn't feel like a period piece.
It
to
does.
Me. I don't know.
I feel like a lot of the Merchant
I mean,
Ivory
like
too.
Jane Austen. Like that's what really pops out to me when I say period piece. Bright Star by Jane Campion is fantastic.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
And it's like about John Keats, the poet, and it's really good. I always try to recommend it in a conversation about period pieces because no one's seen it.
Well, here, you said it here. Say it loud and clear.
It's so good. I love it.
Nice.
Should we do
Pauline?
Ooh, yes.
Pauline Kael. Okay. I don't know if you know much about her take on this movie.
I feel like I think I did see something where she doesn't like it that much.
Yep. She says,
spoiler!
Thackeray wrote a skittish, fast-moving parody of romantic, sentimental writing. It was about the adventures of an Irish knave who used British hypocrisy for leverage. However, it must have been Barry Lyndon's ruthless pursuit of wealth and social position rather than his spirit that attracted Stanley Kubrick. His images are fastidiously delicate in the inexpressive, peculiarly chilly manner of the English painters of the period, the mid-18th century, and it's an ice pack of a movie. A masterpiece in every insignificant detail. Kubrick suppresses most of the active elements that make movies pleasurable.
Wow.
The film says that people are disgusting, but things are lovely. And a narrator tells you what's going to happen before you see it. It's a coffee table movie. The stately tour of European high life is like a 3-hour slideshow for art history majors.
I mean, she's not wrong.
She's not wrong, but
there's more.
She says that Kubrick suppresses most of the active elements that make movies pleasurable. What? I think this movie is so pleasurable in in its storytelling and in its set pieces. She also says here that it's inexpressive and it's an ice pack of a movie.
I mean,
that's harsh.
See that. We even talked about that ourselves, about this kind of like, yeah, we like chime in and out of real scenes, real character, and like, I don't know. But it's not a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. And I don't think it's icy. I just think
like
it's not as...
Yeah.
I mean, it is the like antithesis of all antitheses for Bridgerton, probably.
I wouldn't know anything about it.
Well, Bridgerton is just super like...
Oh, yeah.
Expressive in every way. I've never seen it, but
I saw a scene because Molly showed it to me because she's obsessed with this like current season, and she showed me a clip of this like famous carriage scene where they like have sex in a carriage, but these strings come in and they're like, the strings are like playing this like Pitbull song, and I was like, okay, I've seen all I need to see. And it's just very like
Pitbull song.
I don't remember, but like the lighting, it kind of looks like a Hallmark movie. Sorry, Molly, if you're listening. I know she like loves it.
Oh, well, most people love it.
It's so
it's super entertaining.
But this yeah, exactly. Like that's the Hallmark glossy like trash version, and then Barry Lyndon's like the real deal.
We're gonna be in trouble.
Letterboxd.
We're gonna get bad Apple reviews. 4.5 stars. Marie Antoinette for fellas.
I mean, I love Marie Antoinette. 5 stars. Long movies scare me. Period pieces scare me. They're both things that I historically, get it because period piece, have not exactly found easy to watch. They're usually great, but impatient people like myself have a hard time getting the energy to watch things like that. But I gotta say, despite that, I loved every second of Barry Lyndon.
Wow. That's exactly what we're talking about when it comes to Bridgerton. It's like Bridgerton is a period piece made for people that have no patience. I mean, I'm sorry. I shouldn't be saying this because I haven't seen it.
Got on me about it.
But I'm just saying I think that is what draws people to Bridgerton is that it's like that. It's very fast paced.
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and say most modern shows are meant for people with no attention
I guess
span.
it is a TV show, yeah.
Because TikTok has ruined everybody's attention spans.
Well, that's a different conversation. But we were talking off mic about contemporary period pieces. We don't get that many. Like
no,
films.
because they don't sell. The last one I saw was probably Corsage.
Oh yeah,
but
me too.
Again,
but no one saw it.
No one saw it. Also, it wasn't great.
We had The Favorite, which I love. I love The Favorite.
That didn't win Best
it's a
Picture,
great
did it?
movie. No,
Okay.
but Olivia Colman won Best Actress.
That's right. Yeah,
but
it's
I
really
loved
good.
It.
Yeah,
I really, really loved it.
But see, the difference is that one is acidic.
It is acidic. Yeah.
Where there's some acid in Barry Lyndon, but it's
Yes.
not the whole purpose of the movie.
Well, we have Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which is a perfect movie.
That's
but it's
true.
not
But
opulent.
again,
It's not opulent.
No, it's not. It's very small. Great film.
Okay. 5 stars. No funny movie has ever been so gorgeous, and no gorgeous movie has ever been so funny.
I think that's probably true.
I love that.
Yeah. 5 stars again. Celebrating cinema's greatest stinker. Out. Emulating the Joker, Patrick Bateman, Walter White, etc. In. Becoming Barry Lyndon.
Yeah. That's great. Here, I'll give a 1.5 star. I've seen most of Kubrick's films, the worst being Eyes Wide Shut, but this is a close second. It could have used some editing.
Okay, so that person doesn't know what they're talking about.
I just said that one to piss you off.
Honestly, all of Kubrick's best movies, in my opinion, were misunderstood on release. Because this movie, people were like, eh. And then it's only been in the last 10 years that I've really seen the big
pop
shift. Pop off. And the same with The Shining. Shining, when it came out, was nominated for Razzies. And
That's crazy.
the same for Eyes Wide Shut, where people like did not take to it when it came out, and now people are like, yeah, it's great. And I'm like, yeah, it is great.
Well, 2001 is my favorite, and I'm pretty sure it was loved when it came out.
It was loved. Where do you rate this on the old Kubrick-ometer?
The old Kubrick-ometer. It's probably like up there.
Nice.
You said an interesting thing about Razzies. Because The Shining is on the list, I want to do a deep dive investigation of how many Sight and Sound movies were also nominated for Razzies.
Probably not as many as you think.
We should do that one day.
They have to be big, popular movies to be nominated for Razzies.
That's true. Do you think The Shining might be the only one?
Maybe.
Well, it hasn't come up. That's the thing. I've done so much. We've done almost 100 movies, right? And
Right.
I've done research on all of them, and a Razzie has never come up. I would have mentioned it on the show.
That's true. Well, we've done more than 100 movies.
No, I mean,
on the
Sight and
list.
Sound movies.
Yes, exactly. I have a 5-star review here that says, Redmond Barry really just became rich by doing side quests for the first half of the movie.
I love that.
That's
it?
No, another 0.5 star. 0.5 star for the costumes. Never again. I don't know why. There's people being like, never. That's it. That's so funny to me. It's like, it's such an entertaining movie. I know. It's such an easy watch.
I don't know about easy watch, but
I have another 0.5 star. Listed as an epic, dull as can be. Adventure, like searching through 300 pushpins. Drama, like grandma's soap operas. Awful.
that's so
Also,
good.
300 pushpins. What?
There's so much adventure. Like I was really like, oh boy, here we go. Like when he got on his horse, I was really like, okay, great. Like
Yeah.
this is fun. 5 stars. I'll end it here. Smoke coming from the Blu-ray player. TV starting to glitch. She can't hold this much visual information, Captain. She can't hold.
Do you know what that's a reference to?
No.
Star Trek.
Ah, look at that.
I love that. That's great. I hope that person's Blu-ray player didn't actually explode or whatever.
I know.
Yeah, it's just funny that movies like this in this day and age where people do binge shows, it's like, yeah, it's a 3-hour movie that actually goes by pretty quickly. Like, what's the problem? Like, if you can't sit down and watch Barry Lyndon and have it keep your attention.
Another deal breaker, just like Pather Panchali.
No, I'm not going to say it's a deal breaker. I think his Pather Panchali is so universal, whereas like, yeah, if you don't like people that are kind of dicks, like characters that are kind of dicks, I could see how you wouldn't like love Barry Lyndon.
My dad also hates like costume dramas. He can't watch them.
I feel like this might be one for people who don't like them.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No. What do you mean? It's a bunch of stiff, it's literally just like kind of stiff people.
Yeah, but it's kind of taking the piss.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what moment I love that's really funny that we didn't mention? This scene where the kind of like the bookkeeper comes to visit him when he has his leg amputated.
Oh yeah.
And he's out of breath.
Stone.
And he like gets up and he's like, and she's like, tea? He's like, not just now. He's like, how are you feeling? And they chit chat for a little bit. And then he goes, well, shall we get down to the matter of to the matter at hand?
And he's like breaking this bad news of like, Lord Bullington agrees to pay you this much if you leave and never come back.
Yeah.
And he's like, you can tell he's like uncomfortable relaying this message.
Yeah. He's like, how are you feeling?
Yeah.
He's like, much better. Thank you.
That's the great Philip Stone. He plays Malcolm McDowell's dad in Clockwork Orange. He plays Grady the butler in The Shining.
Yes.
And he's also in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
What does he do?
His name is Captain Blumbard. He's just this British officer that has dinner.
Oh, at the dinner, right?
Yeah,
where they eat monkey heads.
Yep, he's there. But yeah, Philip Stone, one of those again, doesn't get the recognition he deserves for just being great.
Yeah.
And in the little moments in this movie, and certainly the moments where Redmond's mom comes to the estate and she kind of starts taking over matters because like, Redmond is drinking himself into oblivion.
Even before that, when she comes and she's telling him like, you really got to get a title and like money.
Well,
when
she
applied.
would. Of course she would.
Yeah, I just didn't think she would. I thought she was like a kind Irish lady.
And I love the scene where she lets what's his name go, like the tutor
oh,
who's so good.
Yeah.
And he's like, but no, like respectfully no. And she's like, get out.
She's a strong woman.
Yeah, that's true. But she's also she's kind of trashy too. It's like you get in another movie, like she's the trashy trailer mom that comes into the mansion at the end of the movie.
Drinking PBRs.
Yeah. Well, those are more a hipster thing now. I don't know, like a Coors Light or something. Bud Light. I don't know.
We're so mean.
Well, this was Barry Lyndon. And again, what an embarrassment of riches, and the fact that because of ping-ponging on the list, Pather Panchali was last week, Barry Lyndon is this week, like two stone cold all-timers, like back to back. So this has been a joy. Your first time for both of these too.
I know. It's been a big month. Been a big month.
That's exciting. Well, we have another stone cold classic next week due to also the magic of ping pong.
Yeah.
Billy Wilder's Some Like It Hot.
How exciting.
It's next week. So yeah, we're really traversing the different films.
That's crazy.
From Pather Panchali to Barry Lyndon to Some Like It Hot. Like we're getting into it, you know? So
there's something about this middle of the list that's fire.
Yeah.
For lack of a better
as the kids say.
You know what they're saying now? I just learned this the other day. Gas.
What does that mean?
Same thing as fire. But it's interesting because I feel like Irish people say that's a gas or like have a gas.
Right. Life's
like
a gas.
Fun.
Yeah.
No, this movie's gas.
That's dumb as hell. That is dumb as hell.
That's what kids are saying these days.
Oh, God. They just went from fire to gas. Next, it'll be like wick.
Candle. That's candle.
All right. Well, I think we should probably sign off.
Yeah.
So come back next week for Some Like It Hot. Until then, I'm Greg.
And if you don't, nobody's perfect.
We're going to spank you with the stick.
I was making a joke about Some Like It Hot.
I know. Sorry.
I'm Jackie.
And we'll see you next time. Special thanks to the patrons at our highest tier, John Pennington and Cynthia Fordwell. Seen and Heard is an official podcast of the Arroyo Film Club. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to drop us a line, you can find us on email at hello@seenandheardpod.com or on Instagram @seenandheardpod.